Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All things Middle Earth here, and in this video we're talking about the Commander Lurtz. As you can see on the screen right now, we have talked about Agsoc previously, who I'll put up in the top right if you want to look at that build video. But we're looking at the evil side and seeing who are viable commanders that you can start with, ideally as a new player, but also we're discovering commanders who are good and have long-term good investment. So maybe if you're just a little bit newer, or maybe you've invested in other commanders that haven't panned out, want to get you guys on track as much as possible. So whatever your situation may be, we're going to try and put together some decent evil commanders. And again, we're kind of looking at tier 1 and 2 commanders. That way it's a little bit more accessible if you're free to play or if you're spending very, very little. We're just looking at those who are a little bit easier to get. Now, 3 things before we jump in. First of all, yesterday I talked about it, but in my opinion, the evil side just has less viable commanders than the good side, at least at this tier 1-2 level. So just fair warning to everyone, if you are trying to play a strictly RP evil experience, starting out, it's going to be a little bit tough. There's nothing I can do about it. I wish it was different. I tell the devs often we need some updates and balancing for the evil side, especially tier 1 and 2, but it's just the way it is right now. So in terms of crafting really well-rounded lineups, it's a little bit more difficult on the evil side to do so. So just throwing that caveat out there. If you're interested, great. I love the evil side. They're a lot of fun, but they are a little bit grindy to start out with. So just keep that in mind if you want to do the evil side. Secondly, I posted on YouTube and asked you guys, and I got a pretty good response from it, but I'm actually going to be starting a new free-to-play live stream series where we start a brand new account in season 1 and test out all these kind of different commanders and builds and strategies we've been talking about on the channel, so we can see how they play out real time. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. I'll be posting an update very soon of when that's going to go live, probably Monday of this week during the daytime, which I'm Central Standard Time. So 11 a.m. CST is usually when I plan to do those live streams, but I'll post an official time very soon. So that'll be happening. So stay tuned, because we'll be covering all these things we're talking about and building it on a brand new account for you guys to see. And third, we have this sheet up on the screen right here. I make these sheets, or I put them together for each of the commanders we do. This is a quick reference on everything we're talking about in the video. So if you ever want to reference back, if you want to share this in your Discord with your team, whatever it is, we've got one for Lurtz here today. And again, we've done one for every commander we've built. So if you plan on using someone, you can just take a screenshot of these. You can download them. They're in the description. Anything we ever talk about in the videos usually is available to you guys in the description to use as well. And fourth, I lied. There's one more thing. Just really quickly, I'm going to put it up on the screen here. This is my top up link. You've probably heard me talk about it a few times, and I'll make it very short and sweet. If you use this link, it does support the channel. I get a small kickback. It is an affiliate link. This is linked down in the description below. And if you're spending in the game, it's no different if you spend on the top up link. It's actually cheaper in some parts of the world. So if you're not in America specifically, it can be cheaper in your country. So check it out if you haven't already. It supports the channel and allows me to keep making content like I am now. So if you want to see more videos and live streams, this is a huge way that you can do that at no extra cost to you if you're already spending. Now, if you're not spending, obviously, does it apply to you? Hit the like button, subscribe. All those things really do mean a lot, and they do help the channel as well. So appreciate the support, but let's go ahead and jump into the actual video. All right, so today we're talking about Lurtz, and Lurtz is one of my favorite commanders. I remember watching the Fellowship of the Ring growing up, and this dude was just the coolest commander in the world. And honestly, he had kind of a heyday in season 1 of this game launching like more than 2 years ago. We were running Lurtz with Mumakil, and he was a beast. And since then, he's kind of fallen up. So 2.0 has been a kind of better turn for Lurtz, actually. He is very, very competitive. He's a very, very good physical damage dealer. We've talked a lot about it on the channel, but physical damage dealers, really damage-dealing commanders are the meta, and I think physical damage dealers have the edge by a little bit. So Lurtz, being a physical damage dealer, he's having a really good time at 2.0. Now, he's pretty simple. He has 2 damage skills we're going to look at. So we look here at Pursuer, which is physical damage, as well as Uruk-hai Firstborn, which is physical damage. We're going to run both of those. We're going to start with the R3 and then put points into the top R1. And our extra points are going to they're going to go into Uruk-hai Elite, which is going to give him more attack, which, if you guys remember, attack is this one right here, which says affects the ability to inflict physical damage. So the more attack he has, the more damage these skills do. So while he didn't have 3 damage skills, he has 2, and one that kind of buffs him up a bit more. So it's not a bad one at all. I like him a lot too because he's good at R3. So if you're a new player, you just have to unlock him to get into R3. And honestly, at R1, you could still use Pursuer and Uruk-hai Elite, and he would still put some damage out. He's going to have a lot more with the R3, obviously, but he's not one you have to get to R5 or Z6 or crazy things. You really only need his R3, and he's ready to go. Now, as I said, he is a physical damage dealer, and like I talk about in these videos, the goal is to help everyone learn why we're using the gear we're using, because every account's different. And yes, I can tell you, use these pieces of gear, and for the most part, that works. But if you're trying to put together sets and see what you can actually do, it starts to get complicated. So he's physical damage, so we want as much attack and damage as possible. So any gear pieces that we have that have those 2 things are going to be a win for us. Now, as I showed yesterday, these items on screen are the best for blue pieces. I thought we'd start here today since this is sort of meant to be for newer players. Again, although if you're not, if you're trying to get a good build, I get it. But these are the 4 best blue pieces in the game. Again, everything we have is going to have some combination of commander damage and commander attack if possible. So we have the Uruk-hai Pike, we have the leather armor, we have the skull cap. The accessory, there are only 2 accessories that are blue, and there is not a single one that has commander damage or attack. So we just picked the shield because it has commander defense, and we're rolling with it. But again, we'll try and find some better items in the future, purple items that start to have some commander attack. But for now, if you're just starting out, this is a great set for Lurtz. Now, as you'll see on the screen right now, we do have the gold and purple recommendations. The first 2 rows are going to be the best first and second in slot gold pieces for Lurtz, just the standard physical damage gear. And the third slot is going to have the best in slot purple gear. So you kind of know what to look out for. Again, if I'm a new player, I'm going to look at that sheet. I'm going to start out with something like this. Again, there might be greens there too, which is totally fine. Start out with something like this, and then as I find those pieces, I'm going to start plugging them in as soon as I can. Now, in terms of set effects for Lurtz, we want to look for our kind of standard damage dealer set effect. Right now, I have a sharp blade set on him. So if you're a newer player, if you're using blue, purple, green, whatever it is, if your attack is lower than, I would say, probably the 150 ballpark, you want to really try and lean on sharp blade because it's adding 20 attack. However, the higher you get up in the attack, the better your gear starts to get, the more you want to look for percent-based effects like might and perseverance. So in this example right here, you see that I have sharp blade because I have the lower gear on. But if we were doing the better gear situation, let me see what I can put on here. We're looking at things like the Axe of Khazad-dûm, for example. Might on that's fantastic. So we're going to put that on. And just like that. Now, in this situation here, I'm on the alt. I don't have all the gear I have on my main. But as you can see here, we have the first best option on 3 and the second best option on 1. But I don't have a set. And I wanted to make that point too, because honestly, it's not a huge deal to not have sets in this game if you're running the better gear. So this setup right here, I'm better off running it like this without a set than trying to run worse gear. And let's say I want to try and match this might set I have on my weapon. If I go here and sort by might, this is the best set of gear that I have that has might on it. So yes, I can strengthen these all up and use them. But as you can see, there's a pretty significant difference in what we had before. So using your best gear, even if you don't have a set, is okay. But that's where I want to try and teach people to find commander attack and damage. Look for those things because you can piece together different things using the first couple of best options. Now on to the relic for Lurtz. Now, Lurtz has, in my opinion, and I think it's agreed upon by many, the best relic in the entire game. This dude is an absolute monster and one of the probably most ascended commanders in the game. He doesn't need to be ascended to mythic, so he needs to be taken to respect 10 and then ascended, which takes like 150 of his own items and 40 of Saruman's items. So if you're just starting out, if you want to put Saruman on your wish list and save his items to ascend Lurtz in the future, it's not a bad idea. But he has one of the best relics. The big thing here, obviously he's a great commander, so the base stats are fine here. You want to hopefully get commander attack rolls, but his ability here, pin down, normal attacks inflict an additional 20.8% physical damage. And this goes all the way up to 125. So after your 4th refine, which again, we're talking long term here, it's like he's getting an additional normal attack every single round, which is going to add up because his normal attacks, since he's a physical damage dealer, are going to be boosted based on his higher attack and damage. So his normal attacks are hitting pretty hard. He's got good physical damage skills that are hitting really hard, boosting the attack here. This dude's just a monster putting out damage, and the relic is really, in my opinion, I'd say relic Lurtzes are a part of the meta. So if you want to run the meta with him, it does take some time. He's still very viable without it, but this is where he really shines. Now, as far as units go, we're going to suggest Berserkers for Lurtz and your whole army, just to run all Berserkers. Just like for our grid set videos, we suggested Guardians for everyone. We want cost-effective but bulky troops. Now, you could run other things, but this is just kind of the most consistent thing you're going to have. So you can keep cranking out a lot of them, but they're also not going to be pushovers. You could also look running Crushers, but they are countered pretty hard by really welled out Beorns, who's very much in the meta right now. So I like to steer clear of those depending on the server I'm in. If you're not seeing a lot of big commanders, if you're in your first couple of seasons, honestly, you're totally safe to use Crushers. But just getting out there that I think Berserkers are the kind of standard, bulky, but affordable evil troop to use. So I'd be using Berserkers on every commander in my army. Now, I did mention it earlier talking about the Relic. I think it's something you want to plan ahead for. And if you are wondering how you see what Ascension items are required for them, if you click on the 2 arrows over by their respect number here, it'll bring this screen up. If they're not already ready to ascend, like my Lurtz is not, he just shows his own items here. If you click this magnifying glass right here, it'll pop up and show you the items required for Ascension. So this applies to any commander, but there are a few in the game who have really good relics, and you have to ascend them to get them. You have to ascend them to Mythic. So just kind of a PSA, if you are starting out, if you're in your second season, wanting to really run Lurtz for a long time, I would personally be putting this guy, Saruman, on my wish list, and just over time saving those up to where when I'm finally ready to ascend him, I have at least some of those stockpiled. But that's it. That's all. That's the build guide for Lurtz. As you can see on the screen, now we've got these two guys. So we have 2 spots left to fill. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out, because we're going to try and piece together the best formation that we can, at least for a new player starting out now. We're going to try and get into the tier 3s as soon as possible, because honestly, like I said, on the evil side, the tier 1s and 2s are kind of brutal. So this is going to be our starting setup. We've got 2 more spots to fill, so stay tuned for that. But that'll do it for this one. I appreciate you guys, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.